Hey guys, we're back. This is job 3 in commercial air conditioning lab. So it's a part winding start. It's going to be kind of shaky till I'm back on the tripod here, but this is lab job 3. It's part winding start. It's a soft start. And so what we've got is this 3-phase motor right here. And inside that single motor, let's take a look. Just an old girl 6-lead motor back there. And what we've got is a pair of starter boxes, boom, boom. And then we've got the time delay right here in the middle. But looking at this motor, there are 2 equal windings inside that one motor. And so if that's a 50 horsepower motor, we've got 25 horsepower plus 25 horsepower would equal 50 horsepower. And so this is really easy, probably one of the easiest soft starts out there. But we're just going to start it at 50% and do a quick time delay, and after a second or two we're just going to bring in the other 50% to run full winding. So it's going to go part winding, it's going to get running, and then it's going to transition to full winding, and we'll go a full 100%. And so I wrote down a few things here. I already said that there's 2 sets of equal windings inside that one motor. So again, if that's a 100 horsepower motor, I got 50 horsepower plus 50 horsepower. It's a short time delay. Usually it's a real short time delay, usually 2 seconds or less. If you read on most stuff, it'll say that you could have some damage if you leave it in part winding for longer than 2 seconds. The whole purpose of this is to reduce inrush current. We've got to transition to that full winding. You don't want to leave it on part winding on only 50% because the amperage imbalance, the current imbalance, is extremely high while it's in part winding because we're way out of phase. And we can play with that. I can show you guys some of that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to wire this up, and literally all we're going to do is the switch brings on box 1, starter box 1. Starter box 1 is going to bring on the first 50%, right? At the same time, when we started that first part winding, 50%, we're going to start a time delay. This is an oil field time delay, and so once the contacts close on this time delay, we're going to energize starter box 2. It's a little bit different coil voltage. It's 208, where this coil was 120. But after the time delay, it's going to energize starter box 2. Starter box 2 is going to bring on the remaining 50%. So now we're at full winding. So let me get on the tripod, and I will wire this thing up for you guys real quick. So I've got the control circuit wired up now. It's all in red. And so basically I got my 120 volts powering the switch. The switch is bringing on starter box 1. Starter box 1 is going to eventually use its contacts to bring on the first set of windings. I chose to use the auxiliary contacts over here on the side to power my time delay coil. So now as soon as this box is energized, it's going to also start a time delay. After the time delay trips, it's going to close its contact and bring on the remaining 50%. So again, just the control circuit here. So let's listen to it and watch it real quick. So it just goes boom, starts a time delay at the same time, and then about 1 second later brings on the remaining 50%. And it shuts off immediately. Now that oil field time delay is resetting. That's all there is to it. Let's go ahead and finish wiring it up. So here's our wiring diagram of the control circuit. I didn't draw the motor up here or anything, so it can get way too cluttered, but I just wanted you guys to see our control circuit. It does have a transformer on it that takes that 208 3-phase and knocks it down to 120, and it's tied between L1 and L2, so it's just taking 208, just a single phase power, and dropping it down to 120. And then all I did was take the 120 and went right through my main switch, just called it switch 1. So I took L1 off of the 120 through the switch, energized starter box 1, which is going to be the starter box on the left side, so that's where it's going to go part winding and bring on 50%. So it energized starter box 1, we brought on 50%. At the same time, when starter box 1 energized, it closes its auxiliary. I chose to use its auxiliary contacts to energize the time delay right here. Now, since both of these are the same voltage, I could have just wired them parallel to each other, or could have done a lot of different things like that. I just chose to use the starter box auxiliaries. Lots of different ways you can wire it up, okay? So now, got it all wired up, and I tried to jam this in here to put a load on it. So hopefully you guys can hear this thing do its transition, and you can hear a big difference. And like I said, it is really noisy when it's in part winding because it's out of phase really bad while it's in part winding. I'll show you guys some stuff. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hopefully you guys can hear that. I'll try to put a little more load on the motor. We're just soft starting it to limit the inrush current. Now she's at full winding. Something to keep in mind, if winding 1 is fighting winding 2, you're going to get in trouble. So let's say like this one's trying to go clockwise while this one's trying to go counterclockwise, right? Everybody knows on a 3-phase motor, you just swap any 2 leads, it's going to change its rotation. Let me grab this camera. I want to show you guys what this does. Alright, I've got this set of windings trying to go clockwise or whatever. This one's trying to do the opposite. So watch this. Let me focus. Pretty violent. Basically just stops because you got one trying to go clockwise, one trying to go counterclockwise. Let's listen to it if it never goes full winding. Or maybe we single phase one, say it over here or something. I better change this back. Okay, let's single phase it. Not near as bad. Now it's in part winding and it's going to stay in part winding. It's not real happy about that. So, got to make that transition to full winding or you're going to hurt the motor. I say that, but look at the age of this girl and I am mean to it. So here's a Carlisle screw compressor 06T. This is a 6-lead motor. Let's look in here at the pecker head. So we've got 6 leads, and we've got our thermistors here for sensing the temperature. But this particular one, they've got the jumpers in across the 6 leads, so they're connecting boom boom, connecting that, and connecting that. So this compressor was actually being started across line. They weren't using it for part winding start, but it is capable of part winding start. And so, you know, if you read textbook stuff, I think it says part winding start's used on like 25 horsepower and less, but you'll see some bigger screw compressors and stuff still using part winding start. And so let's look at this right here. Here's the connection. There she goes. So basically all we've got is 2 sets of windings, just like over there. It's part winding start. And so what they were doing was using the jumpers and putting a jumper between 1 and 7, 2 and 8, 3 and 9, and using a single contactor. So as soon as this contactor closed, it would energize both sets of windings. So it was energizing 1 and 7 at the same time, 2 and 8, 3 and 9, okay? Whereas over here, we can break those jumpers off. We can take those jumpers off and start it as part winding start. I think you guys probably get the idea now, but there's 1 set of windings between 1, 2, and 3. And there's a set of windings between 7, 8, 9. And so what would happen is we would energize 1, 2, 3, and do a short time delay, and then energize 7, 8, 9. It's really that easy.